Hi everybody, welcome back to the Chasing Psychological Safety video series. This week we are continuing on the incredibly important topic of the Great Resignation and how important psychological safety is going to be as a tool to retain, engage and keep your people in the best possible place as we tackle this next phase of hybrid work. So one of the things that we've been talking about and is coming out of this topic of the Great Resignation is the idea of people, what are they resigning from? What are they resigning to? There's an idea that everybody's resigning, if they are, because they want to move on to something different due to a sense of need for change as a result of the pandemic. That would be very easy to believe. What we're actually finding and starting to acknowledge, and if you can do this early now, you might get ahead of the curve, is that people are less engaged than we even thought, and we talked about some of the statistics about that last week. So in order to retain your people, you need to understand that if they are resigning, then they're resigning from something, and if they are they staying just to put up with the status quo? There's long been a saying around, it's the people that stay and are disengaged that you need to be much more worried about than the people that leave. So in the midst of this talk of the Great Resignation, we really need to be as people leaders, as servant leaders, and as leaders in HR and learning and development and people, looking at the ways in which we can retain people. And the stats around psychological safety and retention are huge. 30% greater retention if you improve psychological safety in your teams.
And that's what we call in times of peace. So we believe that number to be quite old and probably a lot different today, because as we say, people don't leave teams they love. People don't leave teams where they feel safe and where they feel open and heard and liked and where they feel connected to other people. They just don't. They don't for higher pay. They don't for there's very little you can do to snatch employees who are happy in their team. So think just about that and kind of how important of a goal that is. But we do recognize that we hear this a lot. For want of a better term, we hear we have so many priorities, and you do have to wonder what's more important than keeping your best people, and what's more important than making your people, all your people, happy enough that they are productive and performant. So it never really does make sense that there are other priorities. But even if there are, what we would urge you to do, and we know that the only people that are listening to this or watching this are people who are actually superheroes and people who are investing in change in their own organization. So we know we're talking to the right people. We also know without a shadow of a doubt how hard it is and how impossible of a mountain it seems to climb to kind of even raise a dissenting voice in people organizations and say, are these really our priorities? But if you can, and if you can find kind of the fight in your heart to attack those, what we would say is just start being forensic about what it is that you consider priority next year. Obviously, we should say this, we're very clear. If you have to choose one priority, it has to be, how do we measure and improve psychological safety? And if you don't have that on your list for next year at all, you have got to wonder how serious the organization is about anything else. So you should start there without a doubt. But outside of that, look at what's written down in terms of strategy and in terms of goals, and figure out, kind of ask yourself basic questions. And if you get answers that you're not comfortable with, bring it up with someone, find other advocates, find other superheroes. There's so much you can audit. Look at whether these things are, kind of different enough from other years. At the end of the day, we've had a life transformational moment and the work transformational moment. We cannot be pretending this hasn't happened and carry on with the exact same list of topics we had 3 years ago. That is incredibly tone deaf and silly. And then look at what's happening in terms of this moment where we can be serious about the human work. And if we will lose this moment as an organization, as people leaders, as teams, as anyone else in the work moment, then we might not return for a long while. It should not take this big of a tragedy for us to be discussing the human death. But now that we are here, let's not waste it by aligning us, copy and pasting strategies from last year's is what's unfortunately happening in many enterprises. And if you feel it's been kind of the same deck, but it's a little bit reheated and there's circulated with a bit of working online on Zoom thrown in to kind of spruce it up, then you're doing it wrong. And unfortunately, whether you care about the enterprise or not, you know in your heart of hearts that that's not the way to go. So it's worth a serious examination. So there are a couple of things that you can look at. They're listed in the article. That just ask yourself very hard-hitting questions, but we'll give you a couple of examples as well. Yeah, so things such as, is this actionable or not? Is this something that's based on measurements, and are those measurements the same old tired surveys that nobody cares about and just upset our people? Are these things topics that are just trendy words that we hear on LinkedIn, or are they things that we actually want to change and make better for our people? And in general, does it sound exactly like it did in 2018, 2019, really, with the exception of a couple of changed words here and there? It's all problematic. Anything that's less than really rethinking the way we work, really empowering our teams, truly caring about servant leadership, truly caring about well-being and self-care is a bankrupt strategy. So we urge you to look at it.
Absolutely. So if you have taken the step of looking at 2022, and what's going to be different, what is on your agenda for that year, we would love to have a conversation with you about measuring and improving psychological safety through our software. If you can't do that, but you still have it on your agenda, read our articles, listen to the video. Please continue to focus on the human work in a manual way, to the very best of your abilities in that arena. So very best of luck.
Sorry to interrupt you, Fionn, but speaking of articles, you guys, well, I know you know this possibly already, but there is a new newsletter that we have put together, a new series, if you wish, called The Fundamentals of Psychological Safety. That is published every Thursday on our website. Go ahead and subscribe to that. These topics that we're keeping to the videos and the articles on LinkedIn are more du jour. They're more the daily struggles that we're all going through, and they're a little bit more advanced in terms of the intricacies of the people work, whereas those ones are literally just the fundamentals and the basics. Go subscribe to that if you wanted to see those definitions again. Brilliant. And yeah, thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you. And see you again. Bye.
Bye.